Hey, I'm MSNBC's cartoonist Daryl Cagle. I'm here with Matt Boers, brilliant. Um, I guess you're an alti cartoonist, are you, Matt?
Yeah, I guess technically, but I mean, I'm not relegated just to the alt weeklies. I'm syndicated, so I guess there's an attempt to get me into daily papers, although
Well,
most aren't willing to print my stuff.
why do you think that is?
Uh, well, I guess for lack of a better word, it's edgier. I know some of the jokes aren't family-friendly newspapers, but a lot of it is just that I don't think a lot of editors like multi-panel or wordy stuff. Some of them have told me that my work doesn't look like an editorial cartoon, which I think is literally impossible because it's an editorial cartoon. It by definition must look like it itself. But a lot of other editors have been really good about it. Local editor at the Oregonian, he's been good about. He really likes my stuff, and I've been doing local cartoons for them. So it's a mixed bag, I guess.
I've heard the same thing from editors. There seems to be a kind of a McNelly scale. The more it looks like McNelly, the more it's an editorial cartoon. The less it looks like McNelly, the less it's an editorial cartoon.
Yeah, I'd like to change that mentality. I think that we're slowly moving away from that now, but I guess, I think in the 80s and 90s it was like a homogenization of styles towards that, because it was what was getting people reprints and prizes and all of that.
So why do the multi-panel if you know that people prefer the single panel?
It's just what I do and how I like to approach things. I mean, I have a lot to say. I like multiple jokes. I don't as much like drawing visual metaphors. I mean, I do one panels. I do them pretty regularly. I just don't do visual metaphors or things like that. I just draw, characters with speech bubbles saying things, basically. So I don't have anything against short comics or one-panel comics. I just, work in a different style as, versus, the metaphor labeling versus the multi-panel or the verbose approach.
Got to be true to your art.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of talk about the future of the profession here. You were on a panel with me about the future of syndication. What are your comments on all that?
Well, I think the funniest comment that came out of that, or idea maybe, was Paul Fell, who was a panelist, and Ted Roll was the moderator, both said that they do local cartoons, but for states they don't live in. So I guess the next step will be us, reading foreign newspapers online and maybe doing local cartoons for them, since the print newspaper industry doesn't seem to be doing as poorly in some developing nations or European countries where they still value newspapers. We're the new crowd that have jobs outsourced to, I guess.
Well, of course, I disagree with all that. I see things getting less local, and cartoons that apply to more markets are more saleable.
Yeah, no. I think, I mean, I was just joking when I said that, but I think, what you said about foreign papers reprinting a lot more things is true. Although the downside of that is that it leads you to, they probably have to be about international issues or huge American issues like the election of Barack Obama or whatever it may be. So I like to do, very sometimes obscure issues, just things that catch my eye. Or a recent one was the PETA was outraged over Obama for swatting a fly during an interview, and I thought it was really funny, but I can't imagine, a foreign newspaper reprinting that one, so.
Well, I think of you as being a kind of extra left liberal guy, and, in addition to the multi-panel thing, it's conservative cartoons tend to sell better.
Yeah.
The McNelly scale and the conservative scale. What's your opinion about that?
As to why they sell better, or?
As to how you suffer from fitting into that spectrum with editors.
Yeah, well, especially being, a so-called alternative cartoonist. I mean, pretty much all of them are lefties and liberals because, they're coming out of the whole free weekly press, which is basically liberal. There's no conservative network of free weeklies across the country that has,
You might call that the nation's urban and rural newspapers.
Yeah, but they haven't been developing a whole, genre of cartooning under themselves, which has kind of happened in the alt weeklies. throughout the 80s and 90s. But I guess as to why it happens, it's a great time to be a conservative cartoonist, just like it was a great time to be a liberal during the Bush years. And there's just a sheer numbers thing. There's so few. I mean, there's plenty, but there's far less than liberals. So.
Well, I figured that with Obama coming into office and cartoonists liking to bash power, that we'd all suddenly be perceived as conservatives, and that hasn't happened.
No, I think, honestly, I do think a lot of cartoonists have cut him some slack. I've done quite a few cartoons that have criticized him from the left. Because he upsets me on a lot of issues, and I don't think he's progressive enough, and I think that he's really adopting a lot of Bush's policies, especially on national security and secrecy and things like that, and I don't think he gets called on it as much if it were, say, John McCain.
Anything to add?
Nope.
Thanks a lot, Matt.
Yeah.